We're living in a strange time. We have more ways to connect with each other than ever before in human history, right? Our digital networks are massive. And yet, so many of us feel like our personal connections are, well, shrinking. This is the great paradox of modern loneliness. And today, we're going to try and understand its anatomy.
And this isn't just a vague feeling. The scale of this is pretty staggering. The World Health Organization estimates that roughly 1 in every 6 people on Earth experiences significant loneliness. So this isn't some fringe issue. It's become a really common part of the human experience in our century.
So that brings us to the big question, doesn't it? With 5 billion of us online, what is actually pulling us apart? Well, here at TrendDecoded, we break down these kinds of complex societal shifts. So let's apply that thinking and try to decode what's really going on with modern loneliness.
Okay, so to really get a handle on this, we've got to look past personal stories and dive into the hard data. And trust me, the numbers paint a very clear picture of a society that is, step by step, growing more isolated.
And right away, the data shows this really striking generational gap. I mean, look at this. While loneliness hits every age group, it's hitting young adults the hardest. A whopping 80% of Gen Z report feeling lonely. That's way higher than millennials, and it's almost double the rate for baby boomers.
And this isn't just about feelings. You can actually measure it in our behavior. Analysis from the US Surgeon General found this dramatic drop in face-to-face time. Back in 2003, people spent about an hour a day with their friends. By 2020, that had fallen to just 20 minutes. If you do the math, that works out to losing 20 hours of social time every single month.
All this data is forcing a really important shift in how we think about this. Major health organizations are now saying, hey, wait a minute, this isn't some personal failing if you feel lonely. It's a full-blown public health crisis, and it has deep structural causes that we need to understand.
So, what are these big structural causes? Well, for our analysis, we've grouped them into 3 big buckets that all connect with each other: the digital forces, the physical forces, and the structural ones.
But first, let's get a little more specific. Researchers actually talk about 2 different kinds of loneliness. There's social loneliness, that's the feeling of not having a wider community, not belonging to a group. And then there's emotional loneliness, which is more about missing that deep one-on-one connection. You can have one without the other, and the data suggests both types are on the rise.
Now let's look at that first driver, our digital world. The role of social media is really complicated. It turns out that why you're using it makes all the difference. As you can see here, when we use it to kind of hide from difficult feelings or as a crutch because we're nervous in real life, well, loneliness goes up. But here's the really surprising part. Even when we use it for a good reason, like keeping up with friends, the results are mixed. Some studies still show it can lead to more loneliness.
And this brings up a super important point. How much time we spend matters. The Surgeon General's report found a pretty clear tipping point. If you're on social media for more than 2 hours a day, your odds of feeling socially isolated basically double compared to someone who uses it for less than 30 minutes.
Okay, let's move on to the second driver, the physical world around us. A sociologist named Ray Oldenburg came up with this brilliant idea of third places. So if your home is your first place and work is your second, the third places are all those informal spots in between. The places that act like the glue for a community, where you just bump into people.
We're talking about places like local libraries, coffee shops, parks, that kind of thing. But for decades, these spaces have been slowly disappearing because of economic changes and just, life moving online. And when they go, the very fabric of our community starts to fray. We lose those chances for casual, repeated run-ins that slowly build a real sense of belonging.
And finally, let's talk about the big structural drivers. This chart shows a huge shift in how we live. Back in 1960, only about 13% of households in the US had just one person. Fast forward to 2022, and that number has shot up to 29%, more than double. Now, living alone isn't the same as being lonely, of course, but it does completely change the default social setting for millions of people.
And on top of that, work itself has totally transformed. The boom in remote work and the gig economy gave us a ton of new flexibility, which is great, but it came at a cost. It dismantled one of the main places adults used to interact every day. For a lot of people, that daily built-in social contact from the office is just gone.
If breaking down these big forces is helping you make sense of this issue, maybe consider subscribing to TrendDecoded. When you do, you help us keep making these deep dives that try to unpack the complex systems that shape all of our lives.
So, once we understand the drivers, we can start to shift from just diagnosing the problem to actually finding solutions. And experts are now talking about a systemic approach. It's not about just telling people to go make friends, it's about redesigning our world so that connection happens more naturally.
The U.S. Surgeon General's office actually laid out a whole national strategy based on these 6 pillars. This whole framework is basically a call to action. It says we need to treat social connection like a public good, something we have to intentionally design and build through our policies, our community spaces, and even our online world.
So what does strengthening social infrastructure actually look like? Well, let's go back to that problem of the disappearing third places. The solution is to intentionally create new kinds of hybrid spaces. Think of community gardens where people work together, or parks attached to libraries. These are places designed from the ground up to encourage connection.
So, where does that leave us? What's the prognosis? I think the core argument here is that our loneliness epidemic is, at its heart, a design problem. We've built a world that is incredibly efficient, but a lot of that efficiency has accidentally designed social connection right out of our daily lives. So let's just quickly recap the key takeaways here. First, loneliness is a public health crisis, not something to be ashamed of. Second, it's driven by these massive shifts in our digital, physical, and economic worlds. Third, that means the solutions have to be big and systemic, not just left up to individuals. And finally, rebuilding those third places is absolutely crucial for creating healthier communities.
This quote just nails it, I think. It reframes the whole problem. Instead of asking someone, "Why are you lonely?" we should be asking a bigger structural question. Where are the places in our society where you can just bump into the same people over and over again until connection just happens?
And that really leads us to our final question for you to think about. If our modern world has, in some ways, become an architecture of isolation, how can we, together, start to consciously redesign the spaces we all share, both online and off, to make human connection not just possible, but maybe inevitable?
If you want to explore more deep dives into the systems that shape our world, please subscribe to TrendDecoded. Liking and sharing this analysis really is the best way to support what we do and help these ideas reach more people.
This content is for educational and informational purposes, and it's based on the referenced materials. It does not constitute professional advice and does not necessarily reflect the personal opinions of the channel owner.